Hi, welcome to Virtually Sunday. My name's Tony Pickler. I love bread. A lot of people know that about me. For me, it provides sustenance, it provides a filling part of a meal. I love going to Italian restaurants and dipping the bread into that olive oil, and even love it more if that olive oil is chock full of garlic and other herbs, or with some balsamic oil mixed in there. I love to enjoy that part of a meal. With family meals growing up, especially Thanksgiving and Christmas and meals like that, it almost always included gravy. And so the dinner roll, that type of bread, was needed to sop up all the gravy, to clean the plate clean, and to leave nothing behind. In fact, I always used to think that there was really no reason to wash that plate, especially as a kid. There'd be one less dish that I'd have to wash. Bread's been important to me. I know that low carb diets are important, but for me, they've been really, really difficult. Bread's been important in human history as well. You know, pilgrims would take loaves of bread on their long journeys. And monks, dating back to the 5th century when St. Benedict put out his way of life, his rule, he would always say that each monk needed a daily portion of daily provision of bread. One of my favorite plays and musicals of all time is Les Miserables. And that, as many of you know who have seen that musical, it's based on the story of Jean Valjean, who is given a life sentence because he steals a loaf of bread. This loaf of bread that is meant to feed his family. And for an entire lifetime, he's then hunted down by Javert, the constable, who is trying to make it right with Jean Valjean. Bread's also important in our faith. It's the center of the meal at the Last Supper, where Jesus takes the bread and says, "This is my body." It's also an important phrase in the Lord's Prayer, in which Jesus says, "Give us this day our daily bread," reminding us that every day we need some sustenance in our life. Well, as we look at the readings for this Sunday, we have in the first reading from 1 Kings Elijah. And he's on a journey through the desert, but he's had a hard time of it. He's had a rough go, and he wants to give up. And so he falls asleep under a tree. And God in a dream visits him and instructs him to get up and to eat. So Elijah gets up and he has some bread and water. Well, guess what he does? Just like some of us do after a big Thanksgiving meal or another feast. He goes back to sleep. And then he receives the message again. Get up, have some bread, have some water, have some sustenance from me that's provided by your God. Then, provided with that sustenance, he's able to walk another 40 days and 40 nights to Mount Horeb, what we would call Mount Sinai. In other words, a really long time. Now, if you fast forward to John's Gospel, the people are murmuring there. Just like in the story of Moses in the desert. There, the people have been led out of slavery to freedom. But they live in the desert for 40 years prior to reaching the promised land. And what do the people do? They murmur. They grumble. They're not satisfied by the manna, the bread that God has sent to them each day in order to sustain them. They're looking for more. And so then fast forward to the story in John's Gospel. The Jews there are murmuring about Jesus as well. How could this guy feed 5,000 people? Seems impossible. Wasn't he the carpenter's son? Didn't they know him? Wasn't he from the backwater region of Nazareth? He wasn't anything special. So they wanted him to prove that he was special, to give them a sign so that they might believe in him. What does Jesus have to offer them? Himself, the bread of life. It isn't a sign that'll help them to believe. And obviously, the bread, while it filled them up while listening to Jesus preach on a hillside, would eventually wear off and they'd be hungry again. So he offers them everlasting bread, the kind of bread that would feed their bellies, but more importantly, would feed their souls. Steve Meyer, my good friend, asked the question a few weeks ago in one of these reflections, that I've been pondering ever since. What are we looking for? What do we hunger for? What will sustain us and fill us up? We keep looking, but it is right here, right before our very eyes, the bread of life in Jesus. But it isn't enough, it isn't just for us. It is to give us sustenance so that we can go out and be bread for the world, to feed a very hungry world. When Whatsoever You Do Incorporated sponsors a Streetlights Outreach Block Party, like we've done twice this summer already, once in VT Pride Park on Imperial Lane in Green Bay and the other in Seymour Park on Green Bay's west side, we provide hamburgers and hot dogs and chips and cookies, but we provide so much more than that. We hope that the food will give a bit of sustenance to a hungry community for sure. Yet we're also hoping and praying that our presence in the park on those Friday evenings will feed more than bellies. We look to build relationships and to feed souls with the love of Jesus. That's what we're all about. That is what love looks like. And that's what being sustained by the bread of life is all about as well. God bless you. Be sustained by the bread of life. Peace be with you.